Jade Cargill has recently found herself at the center of a storm, and it all comes down to her shocking heel turn. In this video, we're going to break down exactly why this heel turn has stirred so much controversy, who's criticizing it, and why the reaction might not be coming from the people you'd expect. Fans were completely caught off guard when Jade Cargill came out on last week's episode of Friday Night SmackDown to save Tiffany Stratton from a brutal attack by Kiana James and the SmackDown Women's U.S. Champion. Jade stormed the ring, destroyed both opponents, and stood tall next to Tiffany, seemingly as her savior. But moments later, she turned on her ally and delivered a savage beatdown. It wasn't just a turn. It was one of the most brutal and well-executed betrayals seen in WWE in recent memory. For many fans, it marked a major turning point in Jade Cargill's career, heading into what appeared to be her fourth and final match with Tiffany Stratton. Most people expected Jade to finally capture the Women's Championship. The feud had been running longer than anyone anticipated, and although both women are talented, the chemistry between them just wasn't clicking. That happens sometimes. Some stars naturally mesh in the ring while others don't. But after several matches, this rivalry was clearly heading toward its conclusion. Fans were expecting Jade's big crowning moment, the one where she would finally fulfill the potential WWE saw in her since signing her. Instead, she pulled the trigger on something totally unexpected, turning Jade Cargill heel. This is something we haven't seen from her since her days in AEW. When she first arrived in WWE, the company positioned her as a babyface, aligning her with Bianca Belair and trying to get the audience to connect with her on a sympathetic level. But now WWE has decided to take her character in the opposite direction, something that I personally had been hoping to see. And when it finally happened, I couldn't have been happier because it felt like the right move at the right time. Of course, not everyone saw it that way. WWE Hall of Famer Bully Ray, also known as Bubba Ray Dudley, shared his thoughts on Busted Open Radio, and he wasn't surprised by the turn at all. According to him, he saw it coming from a mile away. Actually, he said 2 miles away. He described it as pure wrestler's intuition. Bully Ray said he could tell just from Jade's body language and positioning in the ring. The way she moved, the way she interacted with Tiffany, the way she handed over the title. It was all too sweet, too perfect, too staged. He said, "I knew it was coming." Bully Ray admitted that while the turn worked in front of the live audience, it didn't exactly impress him. He said, "It wasn't bad, it was good and not so good at the same time." In his opinion, the turn followed the classic wrestling formula. The crowd reacted as expected, which made it a win. But for him, it was too safe, too predictable. He compared it to the kind of heel turns that wrestling has relied on for decades, the kind that always works because it sticks to a proven formula. He even said, "Don't mess with it. It always works." It's Wrestling 101. Now let's pause here and think about what he's actually saying. Bully Ray's main point seemed to be that while the turn was effective, it was also basic, simple, and easy to predict. But honestly, that's WWE's entire approach these days, and there's nothing wrong with that. WWE's storytelling under Triple H has been deliberately straightforward and character-driven. You can usually see where things are heading months in advance, and that's by design. Triple H likes traditional storytelling. He's not about shock for the sake of shock. He prefers logical, steady build-ups. So when someone like Bully Ray criticizes the booking for being Wrestling 101, it feels like he's missing the point. That's exactly what WWE wants it to be right now. Clear, effective storytelling that the audience can follow and emotionally invest in. It's not about reinventing the wheel every week. To be fair, wrestling fans today can be incredibly critical. The internet era has made everyone a booker, and people expect constant swerves, surprises, and unpredictable moments. But if everything was chaos all the time, then nothing would feel special. WWE's current formula may be predictable, but it's consistent, and that's better than being unpredictable and bad. So when Bully Ray calls it simple, my response is, yes, and that's okay. Would you rather have a simple story that makes sense and works, or a confusing mess that falls flat? I'll take the simple one every time. Predictable doesn't necessarily mean bad, it just means logical. Let's not forget Jade Cargill turning heel was still a shock to most fans because WWE hadn't given any major hints. Sure, if you're a veteran like Bully Ray, you can pick up on subtle cues and body language. But for the average viewer, that turn came out of nowhere. One moment Jade was a hero, and the next she was mercilessly attacking Tiffany. That kind of moment gets people talking. And that's exactly what WWE wants. Another reason this turn worked so well is because of how it repositions Jade Cargill in the women's division. As a babyface, she felt a bit restrained. WWE tried to present her as this powerhouse, but also as someone relatable. The problem was Jade's natural charisma leans more toward confidence, dominance, and attitude, traits that shine brighter when she's a heel. Her look, her presence, her aura, all of it screams top villain, not underdog hero. Now that she's embraced the dark side again, WWE has opened up a ton of possibilities for her. She can feud with almost anyone. She can become the monster heel of the women's division, similar to what Rhea Ripley did on Raw. This turn gives her a new sense of direction and energy, something she desperately needed after the repetitive storyline with Tiffany. Let's also talk about the crowd's reaction. When Jade attacked Tiffany, the arena erupted. Some fans booed, others cheered, but everyone was making noise, and that's what truly matters. A heel turn should create a reaction, and this one did exactly that. WWE needs those moments that make fans gasp, that make people tweet and talk after the show ends. Jade gave them that. Now, back to Bully Ray's comments. His main criticism wasn't that the turn failed, but that it was too formulaic. But isn't that exactly what works? Wrestling is built on tried-and-true storytelling methods. The hero turns on their friend, shocks the crowd, and sets up the next big feud. It's a formula that's been around for decades because it works. Sometimes fans forget that wrestling is supposed to feel familiar. The best stories are often the ones we can see coming but still want to watch unfold. Triple H's booking philosophy embraces that. He doesn't throw random swerves just to get clicks. He builds logical arcs that make sense over time. Jade's heel turn fits perfectly into that strategy. It gives her character new life and sets up the next chapter in her career. Another thing that people need to remember is that WWE has been very careful with Jade since signing her. They've built her slowly, letting her adjust to the WWE style, giving her meaningful rivalries and keeping her presentation strong. Turning her heel now makes sense because she's more comfortable in her role and ready to take on bigger storylines. Some critics argue that WWE turned her too early, but I disagree. If they had waited any longer, her babyface character might have lost all momentum. The fans were already starting to lose interest in her rivalry with Tiffany. This turn reignited everything. It gave the story a sense of urgency and direction again. Even from a storytelling perspective, it made sense. Jade had every reason to feel frustrated. She kept coming up short against Tiffany. She had the strength and dominance but couldn't get the job done. That kind of frustration is the perfect setup for a heel turn. It's logical character progression, not random booking. So, to summarize, Jade Cargill's heel turn was the right move at the right time. It might have been predictable to some, but it was still powerful, effective, and perfectly executed. It gave her character new life, it shocked the audience, and it set up exciting future storylines. As for Bully Ray's comments, I respect his opinion. He's a legend with decades of experience in this business, and his perspective carries weight. But I think he's focusing too much on predictability as a negative. Predictable doesn't automatically mean boring. In wrestling, the key is execution. Even if we know a turn is coming, what matters most is how it happens. And in this case, Jade absolutely nailed it. The emotion, the pacing, the timing, it all worked. Tiffany sold it perfectly. Jade looked ruthless, and the crowd responded exactly the way WWE hoped they would. That's what defines success in wrestling storytelling. If we compare this to some of WWE's past turns, many of them have been telegraphed far in advance too. Think about Batista turning on Triple H, or Seth Rollins betraying the Shield, or even Roman Reigns' gradual shift into the tribal chief persona. All of those turns followed the same Wrestling 101 formula. And you know what? They became iconic moments in WWE history. So yes, Jade Cargill's turn might have followed a formula, but that's not a bad thing. It worked because it was executed with passion and precision. That's what fans remember. To wrap it up, Jade's heel turn has reignited interest in her character and the women's division. It's given WWE another top-tier villain to build around, and it's made Tiffany Stratton even more sympathetic as a babyface. Everyone wins.